So today is discrete Fourier theory. It's quite an important topic in the course. It's also quite far away from what I did my PhD in. And I think that's kind of a blessing because I had to learn all this stuff from scratch last year, and this is basically just the most intuitive way I could find of describing what happens with discrete Fourier theory and what are the effects of sampling on the measured signals. So it's not a very theoretical lecture. It was actually meant as a tutorial. So everything I say, you can also find in in section 2.8 and 2.9 of the textbook. And I would suggest just reading through it. I've got a few sort of interactive demos that just we'll also play with some of them today. Just kind of try to explain what's going on. Right, so first of all, why do we need discrete Fourier theory, the discrete Fourier transform? Now I should clarify from the outset that the DFT, when you hear it in radio interferometry, it actually usually refers to something else. It's called the direct Fourier transform. But when you Google the DFT and the way what I'm going to be talking about today, it's the discrete Fourier transform. Okay, which is just the discrete analog of the continuous Fourier transform that you learned about last week. And the reason we need it is basically because in real life applications, you don't have the parameterization of the signal that you're trying to measure. You don't always, right? And well, you can only apply the continuous Fourier transform to formulas, right? Like if you have a parameterization, then you know what to do and you can work it out. And even then, you can't always solve the integral. Okay, so in practice, we have a discrete measurements, okay, made at discrete times, which are denoted by Tn, and sort of a starting time, okay, plus n, which is the thing that the index that labels your samples, and then sampling interval delta t. Okay, well, it's something we won't really talk about, but that also enters into consideration for the DFT is that real signals inevitably contain noise. Okay, and discrete Fourier theory can often be used to filter out noise. Right, so I'm going to start with another sort of theoretical tool, which is called the discrete time Fourier transform. Okay, and the definition is at the top there. Right, so you'll notice the n there labels, it's the index that labels the sample. Okay, so yn and tn are discretized, but I haven't discretized the frequency at this stage. Okay, and also notice that there are infinite number of components to compute. Right, the sum runs from minus infinity to infinity. But so this is not something that we can actually do in practice. Actually, you can never measure a signal for an infinitely long time. This should remind you of the definition of the Fourier series. Okay. Some sense, but yeah, like the continuous Fourier transform, it's more of a theoretical tool. Right? It's going to help us in particular to understand the sampling theorem, the Nyquist sampling theorem. Okay, in practice, you can't really compute this thing, okay, unless you have sort of some special circumstances. Usually, if you know the parameterization of the function that you're sampling. Right. Okay, so I'll start off with the most mathsy bit. Okay, and this is a result. It's actually from mathematical analysis. It's quite a deep result. The reason I bring it up is because it makes it very easy to understand the Nyquist sampling theorem. Okay? And to understand what it says, well, I'm not going to derive it, okay, that you can find online or in a textbook somewhere. but I do want to explain what it means. So, do you guys understand the concept of periodic summation? Can you visualize what that top formula is doing? Okay, so let's say I have a function and I'm going to draw a band limited function. Okay, and at this stage, I'm going to specify f is some sort of a frequency, and t is time. Now, in this course, you won't actually be using frequency and time most of the time, but this is the most intuitive sort of way to think about the Fourier transform of a signal and its dual. Okay, and here I'm drawing this function like this for a reason. This here is y, a capital Y, of the input variable f, which is now some frequency. And the fact that the signal is band limited is captured by this, that it has a finite support. Now the support of the signal, okay, or we usually actually more commonly refer to the support of a distribution, okay, is the value, well, it's the range in, it's the values in the domain for which the function can take non-zero values. So band limited here just means that, okay, there's a finite region, okay, f over which this thing can be non-zero. Now, what happens if I translate this thing by minus fs? Fs is just now a number, on here, okay, and let's say I'm taking k equal to 1, so the function of f minus fs, what does that look like? It's just shifted to the right. Okay, so let's say this is f, right? And if I want to shift this by fs, then I can just draw another peak here. I think they're supposed to look the same, and then I know that this is fs. Okay, so that's the period of the periodic summation. And so what is that something, what it results in, the periodic summation y of fs of y of f, okay, it's just an infinite number of copies, okay, of this thing. Yes?
Is fs always the period, or can it be any number?
Fs can be any number in this case. Actually, we're going to see, well, so you can choose it to be any number, right? It's just the distance that you're shifting this thing, that you make the copies of. Okay, and what we're going to do, fs is going to be a specific frequency. Okay? The Nyquist frequency. Right, so a periodic summation just results in a whole bunch of copies of this thing, okay, next to each other, and these guys here are usually referred to as aliases. Yeah, we'll also get into that later on. But now, okay, this formula here, that's the Poisson summation formula. And well, looking at this right now, it might not be exactly obvious, but just this insight proves the Landman-Bester theorem for band limited function. Okay, if fs is chosen to be the Nyquist rate. But we'll get there. Like I said, I'm going to start with the most mathsy bit. Alright? And I've told you what we're going to use it for, but first, a bit of a detour. Right, so just like you guys learned about the continuous convolution, right, there's also the discrete analog. Okay, this is actually the discrete circular convolution. Right, and this thing that we're putting there, that's what's known as a wraparound convention. Basically what it tells us is which element of Z to pick when n is larger than k. Okay? So because, well, if n is larger than k, the index on z is going to be negative. You guys have to stop me really if you're not following. Right, so let's say I'm on the 8th term, and I'm computing for k is equal to 6. Z minus k is minus 2. So now I want to take the minus 2th element of z, but that doesn't exist. Alright, so this convention is just wrapping it around. So what is minus 2 mod n? It's going to be n minus 2, right? It's going to just going to put you in the, it's going to give you well, maybe let's start with a positive number. If I say 12 mod 10, do you guys, you know what the modulus operator does? 12 mod 10 gives you 2. Right? So it gives you the integer less than the thing you're taking the modulus of. So you can think about it as a clock. Right? It's just you just for every n, so for every period you have, for every n you can fit in, you just go once around the clock, end up at the same position. Right, so you can, well, so do you guys follow that? So this is just important to understand. If you guys want to have a look at section 210.3, there I did include a section on how to implement the convolution as a matrix multiplication. Okay? But that doesn't really tell us what the operator does. Okay, so to understand what the operator does, okay, they usually, well, this is the usual picture that you're seeing, and this is the convolution of, well, I think I used just a bell curve here. So I took a function y equal e to the minus x squared over L squared. Okay, and then my z I've chosen here to be the sharp function, or the Dirac curve. You guys learned about that last week. Right, so what is the Dirac curve? Do you remember? It's just a sequence of Dirac deltas. And if you think about it discretely, okay, the Dirac delta is just, well, a whole bunch of points at which the function evaluates to 1. What does this guy look like? You guys seen the normal distribution, right? It is just the bell curve. So what I'm showing here is the result of convolving the sharp function with the bell curve. And what it's doing, okay, the reason this is easy to visualize is because of this delta function, you can just think of it as placing, at each one of these things, you place the function, you center the function around that, right? And then at the end you sum them all together. And when it's sufficiently narrow, let's say, so when there's a bit of a gap between them here, right? You can think about them as separate copies. But as the width increases, you see what happens, right? The copies start overlapping. And now part of this guy's non-zero values are overlapping with this guy's. Okay, so if you go far enough, eventually, if this thing is wide enough, it's just going to look like just like a flat line eventually. And you just sum them together. Okay, we won't actually talk about convolution too much, except to state you've already seen this result. Okay, this is going to be very, very useful in interferometry. Okay, the reason is it allows you to quickly switch your calculations from the image domain to the Fourier domain, the visibility space that you learn about next next week. Again, what it says is that convolution in one domain is the same as just an ordinary multiplication in the other domain. Now, this symbol here, okay, it's just there to emphasize, that's called the Hadamard product. The Hadamard product is nothing but the ordinary element by element multiplication of an array. So if you have a vector, the Hadamard product, so if I have x1, x2, x3, y1, y2, y3, okay, the Hadamard product just results in x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. So there's nothing fancy. This is just to emphasize the operator. And so what this says is that if we have a convolution of two functions in the time domain, okay, so I'll commonly be using lowercase letters for variables in the time domain. Convolution in the time domain is the same as a multiplication in the Fourier domain, okay, and vice versa. The convolution of the Fourier transform of two signals is the same as the Fourier transform of just the product of those two signals. Okay, this is useful for computations, but it's also useful to speed up calculations. Like I said, circular convolution can be implemented as a matrix product, okay, with a specific kind of matrix called the circular matrix. Okay, that's an order n squared operation, matrix vector, right? So we would think in order to compute a convolution, it's going to take order n squared time. But actually, by utilizing the fast Fourier transform, that you're going to become intimately familiar with over the weekend during next week, because that's going to be your assignment, by the way. You can use the fast Fourier transform to very quickly compute convolution. And that's about all I'm going to say about that. And are there any questions so far? Now I'm going to actually move on to something a bit more practical. In the sense, most of the time, you're going to be dealing with some sort of variation of the discrete Fourier transform. Now, the definition of a discrete Fourier transform is given there, right? Where now you can see I've also discretized the frequency variable. So before the discrete time Fourier transform, I had the frequency as a continuous variable, but here it's discrete. Okay, and so in this formulation, so in this one here, you don't actually need to have fk and tn sampled at equally spaced intervals. This is quite general. Okay, you can for any fk, any tn, you can compute this. Okay. If you sample at equally spaced intervals, so if you define tn, like I did right at the beginning, and fk in this way, then you can write the discrete Fourier transform purely in terms of the indices n and k. Yes.
Does k represent the wave number, or is it just purely to number the
So
number?
k is just, so you could, I mean, if you could make it, interpret it as a wave number if you use the right frequency variable. Look at how k is related to the actual frequency. Okay, to interpret it as a wave number, you have to apply some sort of physical, well, you have to have a physical problem to think about it like that. I mean, you got to relate it to omega, right? So it's related to the wave number. So some important things to note. Okay, it is in this formulation on the right, this guy here, it is clearly periodic with period n. So what does that mean? Okay, so I realize we depart a little bit from the notation you guys used in the first one. So yk here, the k there is the index that labels the sample of y. So now y being the discrete Fourier transform of some signal yn. So which is the variable when you're doing the discrete Fourier transform? The variable is k. Right? So this is a function of k. If you're going to do the inverse DFT, like I'll show you now, it's going to be a function of n. Okay, so if I say this is periodic, what I mean is that yk is the same as yk plus or minus n. Okay, and you can see that quite easily, right? The only thing that changes is this factor. So it's e to the minus 2 pi I n k plus n over n. Right? What is this? This is just I n k over n. Okay, and this plus here just introduces another factor. Now it's n times n over n. And your n cancels out. What is this? Okay? This is, so forget about this, but see now, this thing here, this is cos of 2 pi n, where n is an integer, minus the sine of 2 pi n. What is this for an integer?
Complex.
Well, this is 0 for any integer, right? Because sine of 0, sine of 2 pi, sine of 4 pi, it's always 0. And this was 1. Right? So there you go. That's what it means that it's periodic. And then the discrete Fourier transform of a real valued signal is Hermitian. What does that mean? How do I... Do you guys know what Hermitian means? Okay, so it means that the value of the number is the same as its complex conjugate. Right. Did I see you shake your head there? Oh, no. No. Okay, so how do I form the complex conjugate of this quantity?
Just make it positive.
Yeah. Right? And so if you, well, you actually, you negate the sign of I. Okay? And so this is just going to be positive. And so what you end up seeing is that y of minus k is the same as conjugate yk. That's your Hermitian property coming out. And together they imply, sorry, what am I? It's the same as conjugate, sorry. But. Okay, so this is the Hermitian part. Okay, and then if it's also periodic, then I can add n. Okay, and so we're going to see what this does to the signal a bit later on. It applies to real value signals. Okay, so that's only when yn is real. Otherwise, if you take the complex conjugate, yn is no longer the same. Alright, I'm going to give you some examples just now. Basically, the said about the DFT also holds for the inverse discrete Fourier transform, where the inverse DFT is just defined like this. So you basically change the sign on I, okay, and now you see that n is a variable. This is a function of n, whereas that is a function of k. Cool. I can see you guys are falling asleep. So let's do something a little more practical. So you can read through this. Okay, and now we'll talk about how to numerically implement the discrete Fourier transform. So what is the most obvious way to do this? Okay, so let's say, well, I just have to, so I selected k that I want to compute. Okay, so let's start with k is equal to 0. And I just have to compute all the terms for each n from 0 to n minus 1. Right, and then I just add them all together. Okay, so for each n, so this thing here, I can do in a loop, right? You guys, I hope you are somewhat familiar with coding. So that's what I'm doing in the loop here. So the most sort of obvious way to do it is to implement it using a double loop, where I choose a k, okay, and then I sum for each n, then I go to the next k, and then I sum for each n, then I go to the next k. Right? I would focus because this is going to be related to the assignment we get at the end of today. Okay, this thing here is not a very efficient way to implement it. Okay? We can also replace, well, first let's think about replacing the inner loop by some kind of vectorized form. So what can I do? So I can compute the vector, so I'm still with yk. Okay, I compute the vector for each n. So I evaluate this as a vector, and then I put in here e to the minus 2 pi I, okay, 0 times whatever k is over n, and the next one, 2 pi I 1 k over n, and so on, up until n minus 1. And then I just multiply it, so this is now a row vector, and then I just multiply it by my y1, y2, all the way to yn. Okay, so that's the vectorized form of the inner loop. Now how are we going to vectorize also the outer loop? It's quite simple, right? You just have to do this for each k. So for each k, you're going to compute a row. Right, so this is for k equals 0, this is for k equals to 1, so on. Then you end up storing the result in a matrix, and then you just multiply this matrix by the vector. Okay, so that's basically what these two scripts are doing. Right, so this is sometimes known as your kernel. Okay, it's just each k and n. I evaluate this thing, where k labels my rows and n the columns. Right, and then so this is just one way of doing it. You can take the outer product of these two things that would also work, and then you just take the matrix product of k with the vector. Yes.
In the matrix case, k always has to equal n because it has to be.
So when you're computing the discrete Fourier transform in practice, the number of so k and n are the same length, always. Okay.
So this formula now does away with the from negative infinity to infinity using the periodic function.
No. So if we go back to the definition, so look at the definition of the DFT. It's only from 0 to n minus 1. Right. So that's actually something that we can only sample a finite number of samples, right? So we can only choose a finite number of values to sample. So there's no infinity involved in the definition of the discrete Fourier transform. This is the thing you actually implement in practice. Okay, but we'll see this. The sampling introduces a few surprises. Okay, so you'll get how to do the matrix DFT. It's fairly simple. Yeah, I tried to explain it here as well. Yeah, and here I just test that they produce the same thing. And then, okay, this is going to be my running example for most of the interactive demos that we're going to do. So I've got a signal here, which is a function of time, right? And it is the sum of three sine functions with different frequencies, f1, f2, f3. Okay, so in the time domain, you can just think about these sine functions being summed up. What would it look like if I take the discrete Fourier transform of this thing? So we know that the Fourier transform, it pulls out the frequency information in the signal, right? So what is it? What do I expect if I... Okay, let's say I don't do the discrete Fourier transform. If I just take the Fourier transform of this, what am I going to get? So, well, you're going to get just three peaks at the frequencies f1, f2, and f3. So if you use the continuous version, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see three delta functions. Okay, the sum of three delta functions. Okay, with frequency f1, f2, and f3. All right. What happens when I take DFT though? So now I use the above matrix DFT, and the result. Okay, so the result is a complex number. Yk is in general a complex number, and so here I'm plotting the amplitude on the left. Here the amplitude is just the absolute value, right, and the phase on the right. Most of the time we're going to be working with the amplitude because it's a bit easier to understand, right? But similar statements hold for the phase. Okay, so if we go back, so the amplitude is going to tell us what was it basically tells us what is the power of the specific components. So we would expect here three components of equal height, well, with equal magnitude, because they all have the same amplitude when you in the input signal, right? But when you take the DFT, okay, there's some weird things to note here. Firstly, K here doesn't seem to have anything to do with the frequency. But then if you remember how we defined frequency, it's actually K Fs over N, where Fs, that's 1 over the sampling period, so 1 over delta T. Right, we could go back, plot it in terms of Fk, and then what you see is, okay, well here we go. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Great. What the hell are these guys? Anybody venture a guess? I've already told you the answer. The Fourier transform of a real valued function is Hermitian. Right? And we showed that implies this, well, the Hermitian plus the periodicity implies this here. So what are you actually observing? So can you see that these peaks here are popping up at n minus k? Well, corresponding to the input frequency. So effectively, what's happening is that this signal is being reflected about the frequency in the center here. Yeah, that's just from the fact that the Fourier transform of a real value signal is emission. But this also tells us that actually if you take the Fourier transform of a real number, okay, you only have to keep the first half, the first n over 2 samples. These ones here don't contain any additional info as such. But there's also some other strange things here, right? Can you guys see, well, these components here, what are they? Why are there non-zero components here that do not correspond to some of the frequencies in the input signal? This is a consequence of finite sampling. Okay, and I'll show you exactly why that happens just now. So I'll talk about this a bit more detail down here. Right, and then I do a comparison here to time, how long it takes the different implementations of the Fourier transform. So the one I did with the loop, you time it, you see it's about 100 milliseconds. Okay, compared to the matrix version, well, that's about 10 milliseconds. So it's really 10 times faster. But now, what happens if we take the Fourier transform using the built-in FFT function that NumPy has? That's 5 microseconds. That's a factor of 1,000 faster. Right? So how does NumPy do that? Well, by using the fast Fourier transform. Okay, and here I'm going to show you one layer of the fast Fourier transform. Basically, comes from the fact that the Fourier transform is periodic. So let's say I have a problem where I've got 8 points. Okay. And I want to compute y2. Okay, what I'm going to get is y2 minus 2i. Okay, and n is 2, and k is 2, and, well, is 8 in this sense. Alright, this guy here, okay, is the same as, well, that's 4, okay, and we know it's periodic. So if I were to say add 8 to 4, I would get 12 over 8, right? So this is the same as this here. All right, but now what happens when I compute y6? Okay, then it will be y6 is 2i. In this case, n is going to be, no. So sorry. Remember, I'm going to be summing. I'm summing over n. So this term is going to appear again, y2. If you remember that y6 is going to be the sum with y0, y1, y2, y3, y4, y5. But we're going to see that this term is going to appear again here, because now it's 2 times 6 over 8, which is again 2, 8, how are we going? 12 over 8. But so this is the basic idea, is that you have to reuse the values of the kernel that you've already computed. Yeah?
Can you just explain where is that 12 coming from there?
This is just, so this is 4 plus 8, because it's periodic. 2 times 2 is 4, right? And we can add 8 because this function is periodic, as I showed you. Right? And that's going to give you the 12. Okay, so this was the observation that Quilly and Tucky made to implement the fast Fourier transform. And this idea can be exploited a little further, right? So here I show you how to take it one step further. You say, okay, well, let's split it up between the odd and the even parts. Okay, so here I've just taken the even ones. So now I'm summing from m equals 0 to n over 2 minus 1 in steps of 2m, and here in steps of 2m plus 1. Right, and then you see that you can split it up like this, a bit further. Okay, and now you have here these two terms in the kernel that look exactly the same. So I show you how to do, well, how to exploit this to effectively halve the computation time in here. Right? But at this stage, you're not done. Right? That is, each kernel there is periodic with now half the period. Right? And you can keep doing this. And so that's the idea behind implementing it. So you're going to do this recursively, okay, all the way, well, up to a certain limit. Right, I'm not going to talk about that any further because then I'll ruin all your fun for this weekend. I'm really going to move on and try to explain the effects of sampling. So what happens when we sample a function? Right, so in mathematical terms, basically, we have a continuous function, f of t, and we're now just sampling it at a finite number of points, tn. Okay, where tn is again just, sort of equally spaced values in time, right? And your delta t is given by that. So can you guys see? Well, before I show so this is basically what you did. You got the function, so this is the continuous function, and here you are just drawing samples of that function. Right? So, just to go back a bit, so if I want to write this here, in terms of the special functions that you guys learned about last week, can you see that this is the same as the top expression? So this is the Shah function. So you can think of this thing here if I was summing from minus infinity. So if I didn't have this part here, then I would be summing from minus infinity to infinity. Okay? Then I use the boxcar function, right, to say, okay, well, now I'm only sampling between t0 and t final. Why would I do such a thing, right, in terms of this complicated math? Well, it's because you guys actually know what the Fourier transform of these special functions are. Right, so if you take the Fourier transform of both sides, okay, so here I've taken the Fourier transform, right, and so here I've utilized now the fact that multiplication in the time domain is the same as a convolution in the Fourier domain. So to go from that step to that step, I've taken the Fourier transform of both sides, and then I've used the fact that you've got, well, the multiplication in time is the same as convolution in frequency. So can you guys follow that? That is, and what is that? The Fourier transform of a boxcar function. It's a sig. So this explains why we have these non-zero components. But actually, the Fourier transform, the discrete Fourier transform that we're taking is it's the Fourier transform of the infinitely sampled signal convolved with the sinc function. So in our example with the three frequencies, that's exactly what you saw. Where was that? So these non-zero peaks, or these non-zero components here, that's because of the convolution with the sinc function. So the convolution comes from the fact that we can't draw an infinite number of samples in practice. Okay. It's now time to So you can read about all of this stuff in more detail here. And here I've got a bit of a demo for you guys. So what I'm going to show you, so let's see what happens. If I sample 508 samples, so n here is the number of samples, can you see what happens to the sinc function? It gets squished, right? So the more densely I sample, okay, the narrower the sinc function that I'm actually convolving the signal with. At some point, I'm not sure where. Okay, so you see with fewer samples you got a wider sinc function. But at some point this thing is going to go completely haywire. Yeah. What's happening? Why? What my Fourier transform is going wrong? Okay, so that's where the Sherman-Nyquist theorem is coming in. Right? So the theorem basically tells us how frequently we need to sample a signal without losing any information. Again, I introduced this idea of the Poisson summation formula in the beginning just because I wanted to avoid the maths a bit. I just want you guys to get an intuitive understanding of what it's saying. So the Nyquist theorem tells us that for a band-limited function, I've already explained what band-limited is, right? For a band-limited function will look something like that, right? Where it's this would be the spectrum that I'm expecting if I took the continuous Fourier transform. So that's what I've got. So let's say I had f is what I expect from the continuous Fourier transform. Again, I expect that to be band limited in the sense that there's a finite number of frequencies in the spectrum for the signal. So a finite number of components here that are not there. Now the Nyquist theorem tells us that for such functions, okay, there's actually a limit. So we can say, okay, if I sample at this frequency, so with this sort of spacing in time, you'll be able to recover the full input signal. Okay, I'm struggling to say this in words. Let's say my sampling frequency is 1 over delta t. Okay, so what does that mean? It means I sampled my function Tn, there's a t0 plus n delta t. So that's the sampling frequency, right? If there are no frequencies greater than, so Fn is Fs over 2. If there are no frequencies greater than half the sampling frequency present in this spectrum here, then I should be able to recover the signal completely by just measuring its Fourier transform with the discrete Fourier transform. Okay, and the reason this happens basically is because if it's band limited, we know what the DFT is going to give us. The DFT is going to give us a spectrum, okay, in between Fs and Fs. So we're going to measure this part of the signal using the DFT, right? But I know exactly if these aliases don't overlap, I know exactly how to get back to this quantity here, right? I can just make copies of it together like that. Right, so if these don't overlap, then I can represent the Poisson summation using this thing, and then I can just, so in principle, I can just perform a Fourier series on these components here. So you should see this as a Fourier series, right? And if I just compute the Fourier series for these components here, I can get back the entire signal. Right? I think sometimes it's so simple that it seems more complicated than what happens. So effectively, what I'm saying is that the way to get back y of f, right, is by just taking a low-pass filter and applying it to this guy. So that effect, because this formula holds, that tells us exactly that you could, in principle, reconstruct y of t, okay, by just measuring, by just taking the dft. The way you actually end up doing that in practice is given by the Whittaker-Shannon interpolation formula. Right? So you can, the mathematics behind this is explained in the actual notebook. The idea that I wanted to demonstrate may be better to do here. So here I've got a bandwidth limited function, and now I'm forming the periodic summation. So what happens if I actually increase the frequencies in my bandwidth function? And you guys see they start to overlap. So effectively, once they start overlapping, I can never reconstruct. I can never reconstruct this guy from what I measured. That's the intuition behind it. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. You guys look confused.
So what's B exactly?
It's the maximum frequency presence. So that's the band limit of the function. So B is the maximum frequency presence in the signal. So B would be here. As soon as B is larger than the Nyquist rate, you basically cannot extract. So you find that the spectrum here starts overlapping with the spectrum here.
So the sampling frequency is constant.
So here I'm just keeping the sampling frequency constant, and here you see what's actually happening. So let's find the exact point. Okay, so at this stage, see, I've sort of got my 3 peaks at 1, 2, and 3, the input frequencies. And this is now the point at which this thing gets reflected that I showed you earlier, because of the fact that a Fourier transform of a real value signal is emission. Right, so if you change the samples, in this one here I'm changing n, so I'm effectively changing the sampling frequency. So you see what's happening is exactly that. The spectrum of these guys are starting to overlap. So because of that, the discrete Fourier transform that I have here cannot be used to get back the original signal. Yeah, I think it's more important to understand what it does than the exact means how you arrive at it. Right. So effectively, what you can keep in mind is that if you sample at a frequency fs, right, then you can only ever hope to recover frequencies in the signal that are below half of that, below the Nyquist frequency, Fn. Okay, if there are higher frequencies present, then it results in something called aliasing. And so here, I've got exactly the same thing again. but now what I'm doing is I'm moving I'm changing one of the frequencies. Okay, so here, what I'm showing is I've got, so here's still my frequency at 1 and at 2, but I've allowed the upper frequency to vary. So now, look at what happens. So on the right-hand side, this is the theoretical result that you'll get from applying the continuous Fourier transform. On the right, so you see as I approach the Nyquist rate, so the Nyquist frequency is indicated by the red arrow. So here it's quite easy to see. Right? My input frequency that is above the Nyquist rate is being folded back into the signal on this side. Right? So not only would you not be able to reconstruct any frequency in the signal larger than the Nyquist frequency, so if these frequencies, so if I had an input, so you'll never be able to reconstruct this frequency here. If you apply the inverse Fourier transform to what you've measured, then it's going to look like the sum of 3 sine functions, okay? But one with a frequency of 1, one with a frequency of 2, and one with an incorrect frequency of, well, what is it? About 9. So it's more than just losing information. You're getting back, is it 5 minutes? 2 minutes. More than just losing information, you're actually picking up incorrect frequencies in the input signal. So this is what's commonly referred to as aliasing. Yes?
In practice, you won't really know what if you don't know your input signal?
Okay. So in practice, right, you can only ever hope to recover frequencies below the Nyquist frequency. And in order to make sure that you don't get back, so this is just what I was showing. So at this stage, the aliases start overlapping, and here, so we cannot figure out what is the spectrum of this thing by itself, because these will mix, as I showed. And an anti-aliasing filter can be applied, okay, which is just a low-pass filter to basically make sure that no frequencies above the Nyquist rate can fold back in. So in that case, you still lose information about frequencies above the Nyquist rate, but you don't get these incorrect aliases being folded back into your spectrum. Okay, and yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So we don't really have time to talk about how an anti-aliasing filter is implemented, but there are lots of examples online. Yes.
So one last question. The amplitudes of your frequencies was still different. Is there a way that you could know?
So that actually happens because, so if you think about I think that's why it happens. If you think about the sync function, it's got these lobes going off the side, right? So sorry, Michelle, I'm very nearly done. You can probably come to the front if you want. Right, so if I had another guy centered over here of the same amplitude, you can see this, and this is what we're going to talk about as side lobes in interferometry. This side lobe here is subtracting a little bit from this guy here. So this amplitude would look slightly smaller. That's why you end up with these different amplitudes, and you can do a deconvolution basically to get rid of that and find the correct amplitude. Cool. Any other questions? Right, like I said, this was supposed to be a sort of an interactive lecture. Everything I said is explained probably more clearly in the notebooks if you work through 2.8, and 2.9. Yeah. Thanks.
Yesterday's obstacles course, but some of you I don't know, and you probably don't know me. So I did maths 7 years ago now, and did my PhD at ECT. I went to London, did a couple of years of postdoc, and now back as a permanent researcher joint between AIMS and SKA. So Trinker fortunately let me come give a guest lecture for you today, so you can relax a little bit, enjoy it. We're going to be talking about some more advanced stuff. It probably would have been better to give this talk at the end of the course, once you've done all the visibilities and the rhyme, and you know all about radio interferometry. So I'm not going to go into too much detail for some of the techniques that I'm going to talk to you guys about. And instead I'm going to give you a more high-level view and just make you aware of, while you are learning the most important basics in this course, once you know them, there are some advanced, interesting things you can do. You can look at interferometry in a different way. And I'm going to be talking to you about some of those things today. But before I can go into any of the techniques that I've been working on for the past few years, I need to tell you all about Bayesian statistics. Now, when I was an undergrad, I did a statistics course in first year, and I hated it. I hate statistics. It was terrible. Boring, dull, didn't make sense, didn't seem useful, hated statistics. But now that's basically all I do is statistics. But I started liking it a lot more when I started finding the use of it, first of all, so I started using it in my research, and when I encountered Bayesian statistics. So I was taught frequency statistic, none of it made sense, and then I was indoctrinated into the Church of Bayes, and now I think it makes perfect sense. So I'm going to give you about a 15-minute primer on Bayesian statistics, and for those of you in the obstacles course, you're going to hear a lot of this again from Bruce in a different way. But for many of you, I think this is going to be very new. Okay, so let's start. The amazing thing about Bayesian statistics, it's a field with hundreds, maybe thousands of papers. All of modern observational cosmology could not exist without Bayesian statistics. There are hundreds of papers on this, and it's all based on exactly one equation, this one. One equation spawned an entire field. It's quite remarkable. This equation is called Bayes' theorem, despite the fact that it was invented by Laplace. Go figure. And what you're looking at is a ratio of probabilities. So this you should read as the probability of event A, given that event B has happened. So what's the probability that my shoes are wet, given that it's raining outside? And this thing is just, well, what's the probability that it's raining outside? Right, so this is probability of event B. It's very easy to prove this. Just comes out of logic theory, basically, and no one really contests that this equation is logically correct, but there is some controversy, well, it's not really controversy anymore, but there in the past was some controversy about using this for statistics. So how do we make this useful in science? Well, we turn it around and relabel things, and we look at this. Instead of talking about events A and B, we talk about theory and data. This term says, what is the probability of this theory with these particular parameters? So theta here could be a vector. If you're doing cosmology, it could be the density of omega lambda, density of dark energy, density of matter, H naught. If you're talking about, I don't know, modeling the weather, it could be parameters like the pressure or the moisture in the air, things like that. All of the parameters in your theory could go in here, and your data goes in here, whatever your data may be. So these are the same equations, I've just turned a few things around. Now, when people start working with Bayesian statistics, they often get confused because we seem to have quite weird notation, weird terminology, but it actually makes a lot of sense when you start looking at the language. So each of these terms in this equation has a name. And I'm going to go through them. The first one is the most important. This is called the posterior. This is what is the probability of my theory given some data that I've just taken. This is science. This is all of science in that term. That's all we ever want to know. We have some hypothesis. We take some data. We want to decide, should I believe in my hypothesis any more or any less given this data that I've taken? Right? Should I believe in lambda CDM more? Should I believe that the Earth is flat? Should I believe whatever, given this data that I've taken? In practice, it turns out to be quite hard to compute the posterior. What's easy to compute is this thing called the likelihood. This says if I pick some theory, some model, and I pick the parameters for that model, I choose a specific set of parameters, what is the probability of this data that I've observed given those parameters that I've chosen? Right? You guys have actually sort of probably already done this. If you've ever done things like least squares regression, if you know about the chi-squared, these are things that go in here. And I'll talk a little bit more about the likelihood in 1 or 2 slides. But let's finish off the rest of the terms. This thing is called the prior. This is prior knowledge you have about the parameters. You notice there's no data term in here. This is just basically comes out of physics, usually. So for example, the density of dark matter, well, it can't be less than 0, right? It has to be positive. So that's a prior that I can put on that parameter. That comes from physics. It comes from any prior information you might have about this parameter. And lastly, you've got this weird thing, P of D, probability of data. Well, I took my data, it's there. It seems kind of weird, but I'll explain it in a few more slides. It's called the Bayesian evidence, also sometimes called the marginal likelihood. Now, if you're just trying to figure out what's the best fitting parameters of my theory, and that's all you care about, you usually don't have to worry about this term. It's just a normalization term. But if you want to start comparing different models and say, should I believe in lambda CDM or should I believe in time-varying dark energy, this is the term that helps you make those decisions. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But for now, I want you to look at all of these words, right? These are things that often confuse people, but actually do make a lot of sense. Look, especially where you go from prior to posterior. You take this term, the likelihood, you update your prior to get your posterior. It basically says, I had some prior knowledge about these parameters, some prior belief. Now I took some data. Now, how does that update my belief, my degree of belief in this particular theory? Is it more or less? Is it the same? If you get no change between prior and posterior, your data is rubbish. It's not helping you at all. But usually your data tells you something about your theory. And you start with maybe a very wide prior and you get a very narrow posterior. You become very sure of what these parameters should be. And that, in a nutshell, is Bayesian statistics. Just this one equation. Now, the hard part comes in when you start applying this and playing with it and seeing how it applies to a particular problem. So I just want to talk a bit about this term, the likelihood, because you may or may not have come across something like this. But if you've ever tried to fit like a straight line to some data points, this term has sort of come in there. You just probably weren't aware of it. If you probably haven't heard of it, well, you might have heard of the chi-squared. The chi-squared is just how well this particular model that you've got fits your data, right? So for example, this is what the likelihood function might look like as a function of some parameter, y. And I'm saying that when the likelihood is maximized, this term, where it's maximized, I get the best fit to my data. If I move a little bit away, I get a worse fit. But you see that there's always some amount of uncertainty, right? So this starts to capture not only what are my best fitting parameters in a particular model, but what's the uncertainty on them as well, which you always need in science. And now this term can go into any number of dimensions, any number of parameters. If you can imagine a 7-dimensional surface, well, that's amazing, but the likelihood is well defined for any number of dimensions. So the key point is that we don't want to just know what's my best fitting parameters. We don't want to just know how much dark energy there is in the universe. We want to know how well we know that. How certain are we? What is our uncertainty? We always want to put error bars on everything because we're scientists. So the problem is, to do this properly, you have this big n-dimensional posterior, and now you're asking a question about just one of the parameters. Now you can't just take a slice through that posterior because you might be taking the wrong slice. You've got to take into account all the other parameters. You've got to do this thing called marginalization. You're actually, when you marginalize it, you're just applying the laws of probability. That's all you're doing. If I want to know probability that my shoes are wet. I could add up the probability that my shoes are wet and it's raining, plus the probability that my shoes are wet and it's not raining. Right? These terms added together will get me just the probability that my shoes are wet, because I've taken into account every other situation. In a continuous space, this plus this addition turns into an integral. So you integrate over all the other parameters. So over the whole parameter space to get out the 1D posterior. This is actually very hard. N-dimensional integrals are usually very hard. You usually can't do this analytically. Very few cases you can. But you can do it numerically quite easily. And you get out things that look like this. This is a one-dimensional posterior where I've got a best fitting value and some uncertainty. There are samplers that, again, for those of you in ops class, you're going to learn about MCMC. I'll be talking a little bit, a tiny bit, about nested sampling, which is a different algorithm. And one of the main reasons Bayesian statistics has only really taken off over the last couple of, maybe last 1 or 2 decades, is because of computational power. Right? Computers have gotten better and better, so now we can do this relatively easily. Whereas before, this would have been kind of impossible. So nested sampling, I'm not going to go into the algorithm in any kind of detail. But what it does is it starts with your prior. So you define some prior space. Say, I know my parameters are somewhere in this box, the best fitting ones, but I don't know where they are. You throw down a whole lot of points, and you compute the likelihood for each of those points. And then what it does is over a series of iterations, it throws away points that have low likelihoods, so aren't very close to your best fitting values, and it keeps the ones that are good. So it collapses down from the prior onto the posterior. So if this is, and it's really good because it can deal with very complicated posteriors. So this insane thing, which you'll never see in science, might be your underlying posterior, and this is the estimate that it gets out. Okay, but don't worry too much about that. This is just to give you a rough idea of it. Alright, the last piece of the puzzle I want to talk about is model selection. Remember I talked about that weird term, probability of data? It doesn't seem to make any sense. That's called the Bayesian evidence. And the reason why it didn't make sense is because in that equation there was actually a hidden term. There was your model. You had to have chosen a model first before you could compute Bayes' theorem. So this is this. That term is actually what is the probability of this data that I've taken given my whole model. That means you have to integrate over the entire space of this one model, over all parameter space. So that is a very big, difficult integral. And the reason why I use nested sampling is because it was designed to compute this integral automatically. So it's very, very nice. So all it does is it takes this is your likelihood, this is your prior, I've just now got an extra model term in here, and it integrates over all parameter space. Exactly what I just said. Now, the problem is that the evidence on its own doesn't actually tell you anything, right? It's just a number. Because the problem is, if I give you a model and you fit it to the data, how do you know that that is the best model? The only way you could possibly know is by trying every single other model, which is presumably an infinite number. Right? This is not a realistic thing to be able to do. What you can do, though, is say it's better than some other model. So we do this all the time in cosmology. We have a very simple model called lambda CDM, just 6 parameters, it describes the whole universe. Quite amazing. And we add complexities. We say, well, what if dark energy is time varying? What if there's modified gravity? What if there are extra neutrinos? What if there's this? We add these more complex models, and then we want to know, is there any reason for me to believe this more complicated model over the more simple one? Does the data prefer the more complicated model or the simpler one? And the way you do that in Bayesian statistics is by taking a ratio of evidences. So basically we want to say, we've got the probability of model 0 given some data, and I can divide it by the probability of model 1 given some data. This is called it's got a complicated name, ratio of posterior odds. And you actually end up just applying Bayes' theorem again. It's just Bayes' theorem again. One equation. It's all we have. One equation. You have some model priors. Usually these are equal. You have no prior reason to believe one model is more likely than another. There's usually very little reason for these not to be set to, this ratio not to be set to 1. Which means this is that's really important, the Bayes factor. This is the thing driving this ratio and telling you which model you should prefer. So the Bayes factor you just get by computing the evidence for the first model and then computing the evidence for the second model and taking the ratio. The cool thing about the Bayes factor, you guys know what Occam's razor is, right? Who can tell me what Occam's razor is? I know Josh knows it. Anyway, don't be shy. You do know this.
The simplest explanation is generally the right one.
Yeah. We generally just, in science, we want to prefer the simplest explanation. Now, the cool thing about this technique is that Occam's razor is automatically encoded in here, right? It will penalize any model that is really complicated. Why? Because it ends up with a bigger prior volume. So it has a bigger volume to integrate over, and that number is going to end up being smaller. So it really has to fit your data much better than the simpler model for you to prefer it. It also penalizes models that are not very predictive. If I have two models that are the same, but in one I say parameter y must be between 1 and 3, and in the other I say parameter y must be between 3 million between minus 3 million and 3 million, and then I take some data and I get 2. Which model is more likely? Well, I mean, this one was really predictive. It said it's going to be in this really tiny range, and I took some data and there it was. Well, this model maybe is better than this one that didn't tell me anything. So that's also encoded automatically in model selection, which is really cool. So it's a very, very, very useful tool for scientists. The problem is, how do you interpret this? You get some numbers out, right? Now, if b is positive, it means if log b. We usually work with the logarithm of b. So if I take log b and I get a positive number, it means model 0 is a better fit than model 1. And if I get a negative 1, it means model 1 was better than model 0. But how good is good enough? Right? You've heard in particle physics they say we need a 5 sigma detection. Anything less than 5 sigma, we're not interested. What's the equivalent of 5 sigma in this scenario? Well, something like 100 years ago, maybe not that long ago, quite a long time ago, Jeffreys came up with the Jeffreys scale. And he reinterpreted the log of the Bayes factor in terms of odds, gambling odds, right? So if I asked you to bet R1 million on something with 3-to-1 odds, I suspect you would be quite cautious and not really that interested. You don't want to lose R1 million, right? But now if I give you 150-to-1 odds, you might say, well, there's such a small chance I'll lose, maybe I'll risk it, right? So that means and these correspond to the log of the Bayes factor of these numbers. If you take the log of the Bayes factor of 5, you get roughly, under some assumptions, 150-to-1 odds. That means I prefer model 0 150 times more than model 1. And that we would conclude as strong evidence. But there's a caveat to this. This scale is actually fairly arbitrary. And so anyone who's staunch Bayesian takes this with a pinch of salt. Right? We usually don't even consider these kind of in-between numbers. If there's only moderate evidence, even though this number is quite high, we'll just say, well, there's not really much evidence for this model. We'll just stick to lambda CDM. The evidence has to be very, very strong for us to say, okay, it looks like there's something interesting there. Okay, so I'm going to next talk about, 2 applications of Bayesian statistics in radio astronomy that I've worked on. Does anyone have any questions on the Bayes stuff? Does it all sort of make sense? Are you completely lost? You just not care? You want to sleep? Okay, no questions? Alright. So I'm going to be talking about 2 techniques. One I'm working on currently and one I worked on in my PhD, where we've used Bayesian statistics to try and get the most out of radio astronomy. So the first one is to do with spectral lines. And this project started where I was working with a colleague in Manchester, and we decided we should make the SKA more useful. It wasn't very useful. So basically, what had happened, I remember when I was young, and I heard about the SKA, we were promised billion hydrogen galaxies. And now there's SKA phase 1. We don't know what SKA phase 2 looks like. That number is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And now people are becoming more pessimistic about how many galaxies we're going to find. So we decided to develop a technique that helps us get the most out of SKA. So what's the problem? So everyone knows what a spectrum is, correct? Just shake your head discreetly if you don't know what a spectrum is. Okay, we're all okay. We remember our observational techniques, correct? So in radio, we work with velocity sometimes instead of frequency. Anyway, so we got velocity on the x-axis and flux on the y-axis. So this is what a spectrum might look like if I stare at a galaxy, well, remember, with radio telescopes, the cool thing is you're always taking a spectrum. Just because of how they work, because of how receivers work, we're always taking a spectrum. So we get, which is great, they're really useful. So we get very, very fine resolution here, very fine channel resolution, but it's really very noisy. And there are not many radio emission lines, and there are not very many strong emission lines. And you can see how noise can look a lot like emission in a spectrum. So it's really quite a tricky problem. And especially H1. So H1 is neutral hydrogen. I'm sure you've heard this before, but there's tons of hydrogen in the universe, and you get the spin-flip transition, where the electron goes from a state where the spins are aligned to the state where they're anti-aligned, which is a slightly lower energy state. It can do this spontaneously, and it releases the photon when it does. The actual transition is very rare, but there's so much hydrogen in the universe that we see it all the time. It's actually going on all the time. So a large number of galaxies in the universe will emit in H1, which is great. The problem is it's very faint, because it's quite rare, even though there's so much hydrogen. And it's very hard to actually pick it out of a spectrum like this. So the way people have been thinking was, well, we want to use these for cosmology. Specifically, we want to find these galaxies using H1 and measure their redshift. Right? Their redshift is what's really useful to cosmologists. We can use it for all kinds of other things. But now the problem is you've got to be really sure that you've actually detected an H1 emission line in order to determine the redshift. And so what people have been thinking is that, well, we'll only take the really bright ones. Then we can be really sure they're not RFI, they're not radio frequency interference, they're not noise, they are emission lines. And this means that you end up with very few galaxies. So there's quite a lot of sort of pessimism about how well we can do with SK for this particular problem. So what we did was we took some simulations, because it's always good to test your techniques first on simulations and then on real data. We took these things called the SCAD simulations, quite old now, so the simulations from the Oxford group, where they simulated lots of vaguely realistic galaxies and you simulated some observations with the SKA. So if you observe for, I forget how, 10,000 hours or something, with SKA phase 1, what would you expect to see? So we take, these are some technical things, inner 16 square degrees, blah, blah, blah. So we apply a continuum cut. What does that mean? Well, even though H1 might be really hard to detect, these galaxies are quite bright in the continuum, right? If you integrate over all the bands, you get quite a bright blob on the sky. So it's much easier to find the galaxies with a continuum and then start looking for H1. Alternatively, you can also use an optical survey like LSST. You could say, well, I know there's a galaxy there, let's look for some H1 in the radio. We're focusing on band 1, although we also looked at band 2. Now, band 1 is a lower frequency band, which means higher redshift. So this is the stuff that's cosmologically really interesting, and this is the stuff that the kind of conclusion has been, well, we're not really going to find any galaxies there, they're too faint. But we also did some band 2. And another technical point that's perhaps less interesting is that we simulated realistic noise. This is more up-to-date noise of what we expect from the SKA. So, you'll see the spectrum looks kind of weird. I'll show you in a minute. One last thing is actually how you define signal-to-noise ratio, because the width of the line helps you a lot. You know, if you've got wide enough lines, they're easier to detect. So this is Saba and Mario came up with this signal-to-noise definition. That's the noise. This is basically the width of the line, channel resolution, and this is the integrated flux. We can compute this because of simulations. In reality, you wouldn't really know. Now, this is what the H1 line actually looks like. The emission line looks like this. So here is velocity, so the middle of the line. This is flux, more or less. Does anyone have any ideas why it's double peaked like that? I'm looking at a galaxy, and this is the H1 that I would observe. It's rotating, exactly. Some of the gas is moving towards you, some of it's moving away from you. So what's towards you is slightly blue shifted, what's moving away from you is slightly red shifted. So you see this double horn profile. The wider it is, the faster your galaxy is moving. Right? If it ends up becoming something that looks basically Gaussian, your galaxy is face on. Okay, so what do we have a model. This is a model, right? This is a model that I'm going to fit. It's got 6 parameters. So we describe the peak of the line, so the pathway down, width, this other width term. These 6 parameters, the 6th one is the position of the line, redshift. These 6 parameters define a model that I'm going to fit to my spectrum to find an H1 line. So these are the things we want our algorithm to be able to do. Is there a detectable line? We want to know for sure. We want to know for sure that it's not just noise. Then, once we know that there's a line, we want to be able to fit it to get out these parameters. Specifically, we care about the redshift, but other people are very interested in the evolution of hydrogen, so other parameters are also very useful. More than that, we want to know the probability distribution over those parameters. What are their uncertainties? What does the shape of the probability distribution look like? So how do we do all these things? Well, of course, with Bayesian statistics. So here's my 2 models that I'm going to fit. I'm going to use the Bayesian evidence to tell me whether or not there's a spectral line there. One looks like this. It's got 6 parameters. One has no parameters at all. It's just a straight line. This model says my spectrum is consistent with noise. It's consistent with there being nothing there at all. If the evidence tells me that this model is strongly preferred, then I will say I have detected a line. I have detected the H1 line. But from the majority of them, you'll see they're so faint that this model is going to be the much better fit. This is what a spectrum actually looks like. So you can see you can see the noise increases, right? This is the 1 over F noise, colored noise, which essentially just comes from the response of the telescope. Right? The receivers and also the beam changes with frequency, so this is very typical in the radio. There's a spectral line in there. Can anyone see it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's this one. You get a bit of a spike. I chose a really bright one. This is an extremely bright line. You see how narrow it is? The spectrum is huge. The band 1 covers a massive range. And to actually find this line is quite tough. If you zoom in, it looks a little better. So then you can start convincing yourself, it kind of looks like a double point thing. So we ran our algorithm on this. The underlying black is the model. I know it because of simulations. And the red is my maximum posterior, so that's my best fit. Looks pretty good. Seems to find it. Okay. So, also from this, you can get out a distribution on the redshift. So not only do I learn the redshift, but I also get an uncertainty for it. And you guys don't know because you don't work in this field yet, but this is extremely small uncertainty. It's a very precise measurement in redshift, which is really good. If you look at things like photometric redshifts, you're getting a width of about 0.1. And this is like 0.00001. So it's doing a lot better than some of the other two. Okay, so what did we do? So we took all of our galaxies, something like 50,000, ran the algorithm through them, tried to fit the spectral line, got an estimate for the redshift, and then get this. Who thinks that looks good? That's terrible! It's doing a terrible job estimating the redshift. This is the true redshift. This is my estimated one. I want a straight line. I've got junk. It's okay. Don't panic. We haven't applied the Bayesian evidence cut yet. This is all the galaxies. Most of them are consistent with noise. When you apply a cut, it gets a little lot better. Now we get really good estimates for the redshift. We've cut away the majority of the data. It's like 90% of the data gone. But the ones we're left with are very, very good. If you zoom in and we look at delta Z over Z, There we can see that these numbers are already very small, and these fit extremely well. And we're going up to quite high redshift, much higher than people thought we would be able to detect H1. And if you look at the signal-to-noise ratio, remember I said they were thinking of applying a signal-to-noise ratio cut just for very bright galaxies? If you did that, you would get exactly 5 galaxies out of this sample. We get 2 orders of magnitude more. And this is just looking over a small patch of sky. Smallish. Alright, so it does really well. Cool. Band 2, this is the easy band. Everything's much brighter. But we still get very good estimates. And there, well, then we only roughly double or triple the amount of galaxies you detect. But we can detect galaxies to quite low signal to noise. A lot better than people were thinking. So one of the things you may ask is, what on earth is going on here? This point is far away from the best, the line, the 0 line, and it's got this huge error bar. This seems really strange. What is it? Well, it's something like this. If you look at and this is why looking at the full posterior is so important. This is where the true redshift is. And it finds it, but it finds a much better fit somewhere else. This is probably just because of noise. You know, sometimes noise just bumps up one of the peaks on the double hole profile, whatever. So sometimes it can just happen. And it can happen even when you do your evidence cut, you can still have these guys in. But if you have the full posterior, you can pick them out. Now, the reason why this is important is if you tried to do cosmology with this and you thought this was the correct redshift, you would be wrong. And you would get biases, and it would be bad. But if you know about this, you can marginalize over it, or you can just cut these guys out. Whatever you want to do with the sample. Okay, so basically, you know, we've got this really nice technique. Yes, Camille?
Why aren't the uncertainties symmetric?
Right, that's a good question. So they're not symmetric because I have not assumed Gaussianity. Right? Normally when you see error bars on plots, we just assume that the error distribution is Gaussian. Right? This is clearly not true in this case, because it's multimodal. So the way I define my error bars is I take the maximum posterior point, and then I compute 68% of the posterior. So in the case, if the posterior is perfectly Gaussian, then you would get the same answer as if you assumed it was Gaussian. But the more non-Gaussian it gets, the more wrong that assumption will be. So in the case of the multimodal posterior, it's really important. And that's why this guy has such a long error bar, is because it's managing, if I include 68% of the posterior, I'm getting some of this. So it pushes it further out. So it's really important not to assume Gaussianity in this case. Does anyone have any more questions on this? Yes?
What do you mean by evidence cut?
So remember when I talked about model selection, about deciding which was the better model? And you can compute the Bayesian evidence, which is where you integrate over the whole parameter space for your model. So you can compute the evidence for both models, right? Take the ratio, that's called the Bayes factor, right? And then what I've done is I've done a cut on the Bayes factor that sort of corresponds to the Jeffrey scale. Remember I said, you know, would you take it better if I gave you 150 to 1 odds? Well, you probably would. That would imply strong evidence. So I've done a very strong evidence cut here. It's even stronger than what he says is strong. But I found that this is the best number to cut out all the mess, all the outliers. Yeah. So you need to make a choice. Like, how bad is it for you to have outliers in your data versus throwing away some of the data? And you can make a choice, and that will dictate what this cut should be.
What is happening, sorry, with the smaller ones with the tiny error bars that don't actually fall on?
These would be cut out if I made an even stronger evidence cut. So what happens here is most likely they're also multimodal, like this, but this hump is so small that it doesn't register, you know, the 68% is within this. So if I plotted like the 3-segment error bars, it would probably be really well. Yeah. So these ones would be cut out if I did an even stronger cut, but then you lose more. So it's such a small percentage, it's like 0.5% or something of them are like this.
They just try to plot the 3 sigma error bars to see, because I mean, those are the ones that give you the most bias in your cosmology.
Yeah, the ones with the really small error bars, yeah. Yeah, this is why it would be important to marginalize over it rather than just assuming a value. Was there another question?
Why is the next slide, the probability is not between 0 and 1?
Oh yeah, I should normalize it. This is just a histogram. So when you run these sampling algorithms, they produce what's called a chain. Right? You'll learn about it in Oxford, where you'll write your own MCMC sampler. You get this chain, and it does the marginalization automatically for you. So you just histogram it. So this is actually just a histogram that I've screwed. But you should just divide by this actual number sort of doesn't mean anything. It's really the shape of the distribution that matters. Anything else? Alright, I've got very little time left, but in a couple of minutes I'm going to talk to you about some other work that I did in my PhD, and which we're carrying on in various other avenues. Now, this is the work that would make a lot more sense at the end of the course. So maybe once you finish your course, you could go back and maybe you could look at the paper or you could look at the slides. But anyway, I'll try and explain it in a very hand-wavy kind of high-level way. This is called Bayesian Inference for Radio Observations, or BIRO. It's an algorithm we developed starting at a conference in Mauritius, actually. This is where the algorithm began. And basically, what you will learn in this course is that interferometry is incredibly hard. It really is a very hard subject. Why is it hard? Well, it's simply because you have incomplete sampling of the sky. Right? You have all your antennas, they have gaps in between them, they don't make, it's not as if you've got one complete dish, there's all these gaps. And that causes a lot of problems in interferometry, which we have solutions for. But one of the problems is that if you were to make an image, so say here I did another simulation, there's about 17 sources in here, they're just point sources, and I was to, this is with the Western Walk telescope, which is particularly bad for this. If I was to make an observation with an interferometer and make an image, I get something that looks like this. You're going to see a lot of these up today. So this is a problem with convolution, which I think I've already mentioned. And all this junk that you see here is simply because you're missing information. So you have to do a lot of stuff just to get a reasonable image out of an interferometer. And we can get really good images now, but they require quite a lot of assumptions. There's quite a lot of choices that you need to make in order to create an image. And these choices might be wrong. So what we did is we decided to develop a technique that works directly with the raw data. Now, raw data that comes out of an interferometer is called visibilities. They might look something like this. So you have, this is a real component of one of the visibilities. So this is one baseline. So I'm looking at a pair of antennas as they're looking at the sky. And as they're moving, as the Earth is moving, you get this pattern. Now, the cool thing is that we can actually model this. We can model the raw interferometric data. If you know that the sky looked roughly like this, I could put down a bunch of point sources, I could take a Fourier transform, I could correct them appropriately, because I have a model for how these things get corrected, and I can actually model the visibilities, and that's this dark blue line here. So the points are data, and the dark blue line is my model. And I've also plotted a sausage of uncertainty around the model. So this is quite cool. We can do science without ever resorting to imagery. With some caveats. But we can actually get down to real science just with the raw data. And it actually works really well. So we did a very simple example where we were particularly interested in instrumental effects. So one of the ones we looked at is a thing called pointing errors. Quite simply that your antenna sometimes doesn't point to the right place. You get a little bit of an error. And what that means is that actually affects the flux of your source. You'd think it would affect the position, but the beam is so big, you'll learn about this, that a mispointing often just means a decrease or an increase in flux. Okay? So, and the thing is that this is quite hard to deal with. People have come up with some algorithms, but they're kind of iterative. You first try and produce an image, then you go back and you try and calibrate the pointing errors, and then you produce an image, go back and forth. So we did it all in one step by modeling the visibilities using Bayesian statistics. And then we threw this corrupted data at an algorithm called Clean, which you're going to learn, I'm sure. And not surprisingly, it doesn't know anything about these instrumental effects, so it does a horrible job. It's probably seeing something that looks like this. So it does a horrible job at actually finding the sources. These are the red points. So this is a true flux, and this is the estimated flux. You can see that Clean plus some source extraction algorithm does really badly. Our algorithm finds all the sources perfectly. Makes sense. Our algorithm actually knows about the instrumental effects and can correct for them all in one go. What's interesting is that these instrumental effects are correlated with the fluxes. This is the point that's really important. If you do some kind of iterative approach, you're ignoring that correlation. You're ignoring the fact that your instrumental effects corrupt your science. And if you are, radio astronomy is now entering the era of true precision science, precision cosmology. We are actually at this stage. This is getting really, really important. We can't just ignore these things. So what you're looking at here is a covariance matrix. If the point is red and slanty this way, it means these two parameters are highly correlated. If they're blue and slanty the other way, they're anti-correlated. If they're just white, they don't really to each other. So one of the things you see is, of course, all the fluxes are correlated. This kind of makes sense. You've got the same beam looking at all the fluxes. You can amplify or de-amplify the beam, and it will shift all the fluxes up and down. They can affect each other because they affect each other through calibration, stuff like that. The important thing is that these pointing errors, the instrumental effects, correlate with the fluxes, and in a complicated and weird way that's quite hard to predict. But you don't have to predict it. You can just do it all in one go with the Bayesian statistics. One of the other cool things you can do is actually super resolution. So here we've got three different kinds of sources. This one's extended. This is a single point source. This is 2-point sources. Now there's no instrumental effects here. There's no corruption. This is a very normal simulation. You just run Clean on this and you get a blob in every case. Why? These sources are smaller than the beam. Theoretically, you'd think you shouldn't be able to detect them at all. But you can. You always can. Bayesian statistics lets you do things that look like magic. Statistics in general will do this.
This is beating Nyquist, by the way.
Yeah.
I just lied to you.
You can beat Nyquist with the power of statistics. You have to cheat in a way. You have to choose a model. This is the key thing. This is what gives you the power. If you know something about the sky, which you usually do, you can model it and you can fit it. And in this case, we were quite robust because we used Bayesian evidence to decide which of these models was more likely in each case. And in each case, it picked the right one. So this is what the best fit model looks like. You can see it's identical. And you can't really see this plot, but it's the evidence looking as a function of size. So eventually you make the sources so small the algorithm can't pick them up anymore. Or if the signal to noise gets bad, it also gets harder to pick them up. So you can beat the beam, but only by so much. But it's quite cool that you can push quite a lot deeper than what current algorithms do. So I just basically said this is the most wonderful thing in the universe. Of course, it's not. One of the things is that Bayesian statistics tend to be computationally intensive. So this is where this struggles. Instead of things taking minutes, they can take hours to run. So making this computationally efficient is probably the next step to get this to be really useful. But there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with it. Okay, so my conclusion would be statistics are awesome. You should all love statistics now. Yay! Learn all about it. And you can push way deeper into the noise than you think should be possible with statistics. You can find things that you could never find by eye. And so you guys are learning the most important stuff right now. You're learning the basics. You have to know them. But I hope this talk has just made you aware that once you've got the basics, there are some cool things that you can do. You can get kind of creative and do things a little bit differently. And we can really get a lot out of these instruments. We can push way deeper than we thought we could. And this is really the right time to be doing radio interferometry. All the exciting stuff is coming out. So you guys are in a good place. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any more questions? Like I said, come back to this once you know what the rhyme is and what visibilities are, it will make more sense. Do you have a question, John?
Yeah, sort of my neutral with spiral. So how do you decide how many points are started?
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. How do you determine the model? Right? That also is the weak point of Lyra. You've got to know what the sky looks like before you're looking at the sky. That doesn't make sense. So what we were usually thinking is that you would start with some imaging algorithm to get you an initial idea of what the sky looks like. But obviously you can add complexity to that. So, theoretically, what you could do is use the Bayesian evidence. So if I add 20 sources, how old does it fit? Okay, now 21, 22, 23. So you can add complexity until the evidence says, well, this is not warranted, there's no more sources here. It's computationally difficult, but just quite recently, Bruce and Harry published a paper on a technique that you could use, because the techniques that compute the evidence are difficult to use in high dimension. So he came up with another technique that will let you do model selection all in one step. So you can put all your complicated models together in one step, fit everything at the same time, and at the end it will just tell you, okay, this is the model that I found best. So you have these nested models where you just add more and more complexity. So it's not a solved problem, but we certainly have ideas of how you would solve it. Do you guys have any other questions? This is my email address. Feel free to drop me an email if you're interested in any of this stuff, want to know more, got some questions. Cool.
I think we've killed him.